Hello, Shalom Aleichem. I hope everyone had a meaningful fast and for Tisha B'Av, and Hashem should help, and Mashiach should come very shortly. Anyway, we have a learning today from Gems from the Fountain. That's by Feldheim Press, and it's from Rabbanit Nechama Rabinowitz. This is from the Parsha of Kedoshim. Let's take a look at this. Some important things: stealing, flattery, and slander. You shall not steal. This prohibition has a double meaning. Just as actual stealing is forbidden, so is whatever has the appearance of stealing. If suppose we say, "Come and spend the holidays with us," when we know perfectly well that those invited cannot accept our invitation, it is Geneva Stas, literally stealing the mind. In other words, you're saying, please spend the holiday with us, even though you know that the person cannot come. In other words, you're just extending a meaningless invitation, which means inducing someone to form a good opinion of us by unjust means. Samson Raphael Hirsch says, "Let a man earn the good opinion of his fellow man, but let him not steal it. Do not lie one to another." Emes, truth, is one of the pillars of the universe. It is God's own chosam. It is God's own stamp. It's like a stamp of God, of Hashem. Chosam, seal, a seal. As for the liar, he is punished also by his fellow man, for he is not believed even when he speaks the truth. Flattery is also strictly forbidden because it deceives others. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people. This is a very strict prohibition, as the one who speaks lashon hara, slander, is worse than a murderer. With his evil tongue, he destroys a man's reputation, and this may cost the man his life. A murderer can only destroy a life of someone nearby, whereas a slanderer can destroy many lives by spreading his evil gossip over the widest areas. So in other words, of course, slander can be worse than murder. Of course, murder is one of the worst things, of course. But in other words, there's a possibility that in certain ways slander can, in certain situations, slander can even be worse than that, because it can have a worse outcome. Prohibition of hatred. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Our rabbis interpret this negative precept most logically. If the verse in the Torah stated only, "Thou shalt not hate thy brother," it could be explained to mean that we must not injure him or insult him. The words "in thy heart," "in your heart," are added in order to forbid us to feel hatred in our hearts. When we are provoked by others, our correct course of action would be to air our grievances and ask for an explanation, but not to commit the sin of harboring grievances against our fellow man. In other words, we shouldn't bear a grudge. If there is something that somebody did to us, we should talk to that person about it. It says, prohibition of hatred. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. In other words, if somebody did you some wrong, some injustice, God forbid, we have to go and talk to the person about it and air out the situation. And this way we can come to some kind of an agreement. Very often hatred is unjustified and baseless. Our rabbi said that the second temple was destroyed through causeless hatred, sinas tchinam. So in other words, this is a very, very terrible thing. Baseless hatred. And it's so bad that the rabbi said that the second temple was destroyed through causeless hatred. That's what we had Tisha B'Av about. The two people they really had no reason for the hatred of each other, and they let it get to such an extent that the temple was destroyed. Things happened. And the same thing with stealing, flattery, and slander. That's the prohibition of that also. This is very nice. Let's take a look at this. Loving kindness, even undeserved, rewarded. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. That's one of the commandments. That thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And then Hashem says that He is the Lord. It is stated that God treats the person as the person treats his fellow man. If a man deals kindly with his neighbor, although the neighbor does not deserve it, God will also deal kindly with the man, even though the man too does not deserve it. If you love your neighbor, I, the Lord, will do kamocha, as you do. V'yohavta l'reacha kamocha. If you should love your friend as yourself, kamocha, as you do. So as you do, I will love you as well. Kamocha, as you do, I will do yourself. I will do as well. In other words, if the person loves the other person, even though the other person is not the most greatest tzaddik in the world, the greatest righteous person in the world, so Hashem will love you kamocha, the same way. Even though you or I am not the greatest tzaddik in the world, we're not the greatest person in the world, Hashem will deal justly with us too, will deal righteously with us. Because so in other words, don't wait for the biggest, most righteous person to do good for. Do it for whoever needs it. Let's take a look at this. The story is told that one of Reb Zisha's followers heard that the rabbi would travel to pay homage to a greater scholar than himself. The chassid decided to withhold his support from Reb Zisha and give it to the greater scholar instead. Because after all, Reb Zisha is going to the greater person. Why shouldn't the chassid go to the greater man and give it? Wouldn't he be more deserving, the greater man? No sooner did he stop supporting Reb Zisha than his success in business decreased alarmingly. Accordingly, he traveled again to Reb Zisha and asked, "How is it? When I traveled to you, God blessed me with success, mazel, and bracha. But when I started traveling to a greater Rebbe to support him, my mazel went down and down." Thereupon Reb Zisha answered, As long as you supported Reb Zisha, who did not deserve it, God decided to increase your mazel, even though you too do not deserve it. But when you started looking for absolute kedoshim, saintly people, to support them alone, God acted kamocha, like you, because it says v'yohavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your fellow man, your friend, as your kamocha. Kamocha means as you do, so Hashem will do. And then it says kamocha, and it says, I am the Lord's. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. That Hashem is the Lord. So in other words, you, as you yourself do, Hashem will help you too. So God acted kamocha, like you. He said, why should I increase your mazel? There are more righteous people than you. Just like you were looking for the most righteous person, so there are more righteous people than you. Why should I support you? So he abandoned you and went looking for more righteous people to increase their mazel. Do loving kindness to all men. Do loving kindness to all men. That's the point of this. That's the point we have here. So anyway, this book is out of print. If you can find it, it would be good. Nechama Rabinowitz, Gems from the Fountain. Topics from the Weekly Sedra. Topics from the Weekly Sedra. This here is, if you want to read this is about Rabbanit Rabinowitz. And this is her. As a matter of fact, she signs this sefer. Anyway, this is by Rabbanit Nechama Rabinowitz, Gems from the Fountain. And this is by Feldheim Press. Okay, thank you. Seid gesund. All the best.